My name is Amberly. I love books. I love reading so very much. I love novels. I like poetry, and I also really love philosophy. And that will come in a different video, the philosophy stuff. I will talk about that. However, these are my favorite books. This is a very exemplary list of my reading tastes. If you have any recommendations based on these, or if you take any of these as recommendations, please let me know, because I think these are like the best ever. I've been making book talk videos, but I honestly really just prefer long form content. Like, I watch long form content more than I watch short form content. So I thought I would try it out. I hope it works out. We'll see. This is in no particular order, by the way. The first book I have to talk about is Autobiography of Red by Anne Carson. Anne Carson is one of my favorite writers ever. She's incredible. She's a classicist, a philosopher, a poet. She's just an absolutely goated academic. This is actually a novel in verse, so it's kind of poetry vibes, but it's a retelling of Geryon and Heracles. It's a love story. They fall in love in this book, but also this book is a coming of age novel. It is so emotional. It is so well written. It's just a sucker punch to the gut, to the soul, to the heart. Next is Susanna Clarke's Piranesi. I love this book. This is a book following a character, Piranesi, who lives in a massive house that has like endless hallways, vestibules. It's such a strange place. And you as a reader, you don't know the nature of the house, but Piranesi doesn't either. Every day he goes out on a little adventure and tries to map out a section of the house that he hasn't been to yet. He's taking note of them in his journal entries. So the book is kind of told in these journal entries. He's making observations and things like that. But there's another person in the house, and with that person comes some type of mysterious extra element. I won't say anything else because I think the fun of this book is how deliciously the mystery unravels. It's just so well done. Highly recommend. Next is Bluets by Maggie Nelson. This is a meditation on the color blue. It's kind of a mixed like memoir poetry type book. Maggie Nelson is super cool. She's a cultural critic. She often includes philosophy in her books. She's just such an impressive writer and someone that I would really aspire to be like at some point in my life. This book is beautiful. It's kind of like a meditation on heartbreak and isolation, loneliness, pain, depression, but it's done in such a deeply personal and intimate way. This book is incredibly important to me and has been pretty formative for me. Next is I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman, which actually this might be the best book I've ever read in my life. Just absolutely perfect and insane, and so just insane. This is one of those things you should go in knowing almost nothing about, but I'll tell you a bit of a premise. It's a speculative fiction book following a woman who is trapped in this like cage bunker type thing with like 30 other women. How many? 39 other women, so they're a group of 40 women. She's the youngest of them all. They live under strange circumstances, you know? They're being watched all the time, day in and day out. There are guards that are watching them. They're not allowed to do certain things, like they're not allowed to touch each other, like the women can't touch each other. They also can't really cry or like show too much emotion, so they're being monitored. You don't know how they got in the cage, where the cage is, or anything like that, just as she doesn't know, the narrator. The other women, however, have some kind of recollections of a life before this imprisonment, whereas she has only ever known this cage because she was a child when they were first imprisoned. One fun thing about it is that they have no concept of time because they have no clocks and they have no natural light, so they don't really know how long it's been, which is interesting. In any case, that's only the first maybe 20 pages of this book. The rest is something else. This book is absolutely insane. It has really deep existentialist themes and what it means to be a person and a human and just exist in general. It's so fantastic. It's so perfectly done. This is originally in French, written by a Belgian writer, so if you can read the original, I'm very jealous of you. If you haven't read this, buckle up because this book is insane. Rent-free in my head. I've never stopped thinking about this since I read it. Next is The Fall by Camus, and if I think back on my life and my literary trajectory, this is definitely one of those books that sent me deeper into absurdism and just made me want to read more books with that theme. It really lends itself to literary works, and it's really something that's going to get me every single time. Next is Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. Oh my god. This is like kind of what started my speculative fiction obsession. This is a book following a woman who goes in with an all-women's team on an expedition into Area X. The government sends them in. They just want to know, what is this Area X? How did it start? What is its nature, its origin, whatever. I think in the movie adaptation of this, it's like a shield or something that covers an area. I'm not sure, I don't really remember what it's like in the book, but in any case, most of the book takes place inside Area X, and you are with the narrator, who is a biologist. You don't even know her name, you just know she's a biologist, as she makes observations and takes samples and things like that. The place has a strange, eerie ass vibe, and the entire book is just like riddled with this tension that builds and builds and builds until the climax at the end. This book is crazy, so immersive, so atmospheric, very exemplary of the type of book I will devour. Next is a play. This is Jean Anouilh's Antigone. I love ancient Greek literature and ancient Greek philosophy. However, I know it's kind of blasphemous to say, but I think this is better than Sophocles' Antigone. It's a kind of absurdist take in the tradition of, well, the French post-World War II. I think this is a very popular play in France or in French-speaking countries. However, I didn't hear about it until this particular literature course I took in university, and I think I ended up writing an essay about it. It is so, so good. It is so intense, so well done. The absurdist take on the story of Antigone just serves to just like up the emotional ante. It's so good. It's so devastating. Next, and is this my last book? Low key. Lastly is The Complete Works of Emily Dickinson. I love Emily Dickinson. She's one of my favorite writers ever. I discovered her. I knew about her, of course, but I only read her for my course, one of my literature courses in school. We had to choose an author and do a presentation on a particular work by them, and the entire list was literally all men, like the Western canon of literature, all men, and just Emily Dickinson was the only woman. So I had to choose her. I did, and no regrets. I have not been the same since. I read every single poem she's ever written, and I've analyzed a couple of them a lot, over and over again. Nobody writes like this. She's absolutely insane, groundbreaking. Her format, like the way she writes poetry, is different than anyone has ever done, but the layering she does, the absolute hidden metaphors, double metaphors, she's absolutely insane. Nobody is this talented. She's just genius and brilliant, and I'm literally obsessed with her. I think about The Circumference all the time. I think that's kind of it for my favorite books list. Definitely a bit of a shallow list. I've read more than this and I've loved more than this, but I think this is pretty representative of my book tastes. If you have any recommendations, please let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear some recommendations based on my faves. Like, I'm always open to that, you know? And if you've made it to the end of this video, thank you so much. I hope to be building a bit of a bookish vibe community over here on YouTube rather than on TikTok. We'll see how it goes. I don't know. I'm still making the TikToks. I just love long form content and I just love the vibe of making cozy videos, you know? I'd love to hear what you have to say. Signing off. Goodbye.